We're live. How's it going, everybody? I hope everybody out there is doing well on a beautiful Saturday.
I know, Saturday. Weird day of the week to be here.
It's a beautiful Saturday morning for you, Shaun. It's evening for me. And we haven't done one of these in a while. We've kind of been busy with other sorts of things going on, but we're back. We're finally doing episode 2 of the Simpit Podcast. So, Shaun, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And the thing about being here or taking this long to get to this episode 2 is that from the beginning, we didn't want, every fourth Saturday, any of that business. It was when you and I had a few topics that we really felt compelled to talk more in detail about. And we've reached one of those moments. And this is also, I guess, me kind of throwing a shout out to the community or encouraging them, because if you throw more ideas at us, one of them might just make one of us go, hey, I got a lot to say on that. So anyway, I'm in a great mood. It's not a beautiful morning here. It's overcast and wet, which is cool, but maybe not beautiful. But it is a great Saturday, and I'm excited to do another episode with you here.
Same too, man. I am super excited. Is my volume okay? I raised my mic volume, so I think my mic volume should be good now. I hope so. Let me see if I raise it up all the way. Yep, it is raised all the way. If I'm not sounding good, let me see. I can probably do some audio gains, but I think we're good. Here's the weather's. The weather's starting to look more like fall. Like last week, it was kind of warm, but now it's starting to get cold and kind of dreary. But I'm excited for it, man, because I had like a whole year of summer, and like I miss the cold, because now I can actually sit in the sim rig and race and not sweat anymore either.
Right. I get it. I have the same problem late in the afternoon. It's too hot to be in my sim room.
Yep.
So yeah, winter. I look forward to winter when it comes to sim racing. There are a few things. Winter for me, I don't know what it is. I guess it's because like back in the day, I'd go to work. And then I get home from work. So that would be like, what, 6:30?
Yeah.
And that's when, I would usually sim race until dinner and usually even eat. Back in the day, I'd just eat something frozen right there as I raced,
Yeah.
So there was this weird association for the most part that sim racing was a nighttime activity for me. So for me, when winter comes and the days are shorter or the nights are longer, and now it's starting to get dark, almost 5 o'clock. It's starting to look a little dark, and that's when I start really getting the vibe for sim racing, because it's dark and that cues my brain to think it's time to race. And it's colder, so my sim room is much more comfortable because, a couple computers, 5 monitors, a couple of lights, and, it's going to be 82 degrees in here minimum.
Yeah. So it's the same here in the summertime. Like, at least you have the luxury of air conditioning.
No.
Oh, you don't even have air conditioning, like, because in Europe, like, your air conditioning is not really a thing. So like, even like when we race our leagues on Sundays at 7 o'clock at night, like the house is still baking from all the sun that hit it during the day. And I end up buying a wind sim just so I can have some sort of cooling in my rig, and it's just sitting in the back right now. I've even put it on. Like, I've been so bombarded with doing other things.
I almost need 2. I need one wind sim that is like, tied to the game, and then I need a secondary that is just general wind.
For me, I was just going to use it for general wind. Like, I wasn't even going to use it just like so I can have, act like I'm in a convertible Porsche with my hair in the wind. It was just going to be just so I can have some cold air blowing at me. But before we get into everything else, so like, if you watched the first podcast, we've kind of changed the format a little bit. So what we're going to be doing kind of now is we'll get into the topics that we've prepared beforehand to talk to you guys about, get our opinions, and discuss a couple of things. And then the last part of the show will be answering you guys' questions that you've posed to us in our Discord. So if you're watching and you're not part of Discord and you'd like to ask us a question, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link in the Discord. Link in the chat for our Discord. And you can join it. And we have a channel called Questions for Podcast. So if you have any questions, post them in there. That's where I'm going to monitor any questions that come in, because sometimes I can't really look at chat all the time, and things might get missed with all people's chats in there. So yeah, if you got any questions, post them in our Discord and questions for podcast. I've already got 3 questions from people from previously, but if you got anything you want to ask, you can ask us for us in there. And then new also is, so our podcast is now on Spotify. So really big. Yeah. So if you're not able to make the show live on YouTube, and you've got a long drive to work or something, you can't watch YouTube at work, you can pull up Spotify on your phone, or if you download the episode, listen to it on your phone. So I've got the link in the description below for our Spotify channel. So I'll have it uploaded on Monday for you guys to watch or listen to. It's both video and audio, so you got your choice of what you want to do when you're at work on Mondays. If you have a case of the Mondays and you want something entertaining to listen to, I hope we're entertaining. So,
or come Monday, you're like, that talk between Ameer and Shaun, I gotta hear it again.
Right?
You download it and hear it again. Yeah. So even if you're here, it was so compelling.
But anyways, so yeah, Shaun, let's get into our topics. So we've got really 2 big topics to talk about. One is not really a big thing, but we consider it a big thing because it's something that's we've chatted about on the pit stop every once in a while. We've kind of ranted about it, and hopefully, hopefully change is coming, because they've hinted at some things changing with iRacing. But we want to talk about some of the things that nag us about iRacing. That's been festering for a long time, because it doesn't seem like the formula is changing. Like, yes, they provide us great updates every 3 months with brand new cars, brand new tracks. But at what point does too much become too much? So Shaun,
I just real quick, I want to give a little direction on this. Like, this isn't an attempt to slam on iRacing.
No.
This is really an attempt to, like, from us, the sim racing community's perspective, what changes could be made to enhance and make iRacing better. And I, hey, I'm a big boy. If you and I'm also encouraging all of you out there, I want to hear from you. What do you think iRacing needs to do? We're going to give you our things, but you might have thought of something that we don't, and maybe they're listening. But, iRacing is my favorite sim. I don't mind saying that. And anybody who does any research on me would know that is the case. So I am only coming from the perspective of how do we make it better? And yeah, it comes with some slams, because it's areas that we feel that in some cases they haven't focused enough attention on, or haven't looked at it from the sim racer's perspective. So yeah, no, Joel, it's okay. It's all good. Hate sometimes generates the best thought,
And it's not, and I wouldn't, like, I'm with you, Shaun. Like, I wouldn't call it hate. I could probably consider it more constructive criticism, towards the title. Because again, like, I hate just hating on a specific title, because all the sims out there are great and unique in their own ways. And when iRacing came out, 10 years ago, a little bit over 10 years ago, I mean, it was the biggest thing that ever happened in sim racing at the time. Like, there was no other service at the time that rivaled it. And so they really had a really big control over what they could do without really paying attention to what people wanted. They could just sit there and dictate what they wanted in the market. But now we've got the rise, we have Race Room, we have R-Factor 2, we have ACC, Assetto Corsa, and we're having more and more sims are going to be popping out. Rensport, we're having the new WEC title coming out. So, I mean, little by little, those guys are nipping at iRacing's heels, and we feel like, for iRacing to continue being a competitive sim in the market, like, some things need to change, and we're hoping, like, we can drive some of that with our communication here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that said, I don't want to slam iRacing, but I got to say, what were they thinking? No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
Damn it! With that new release, oh my gosh, it's irritating. Right?
All right.
Yeah.
So if you were put in charge of iRacing tomorrow, Amir,
Hmm.
well, what would be the first thing that you would do? Is that a good way of looking at it?
Yeah. I mean, for me, the biggest thing first I would do is I would first like we need we need to refocus on create like there are so many different things in iRacing. Like it can really get confusing for the people that are brand new that are trying to get into iRacing. Like, what car do I race? What tracks do I buy? I mean, there are a lot of great guides out there on YouTube, but some people don't really watch YouTube or really pay attention to those kind of things. Like, there needs to be something in the sim that tells you, all right, if you want to be an open wheel racer, all right, here is the path that you need to take. If you want to be a GT racer, all right, here is the path that you need to take, starting from your license and going all the way up. You want to be an oval racer, same thing. Like, there needs to be a proper dedicated, okay, guys, like, you want to get into oval racing, or I mean, you want to get into open wheel racing. All right, you're going to start off in the Skippy. All right, what's your next step? Now you're going to move up into, the higher level formula. So right now there's nothing out there that really tells you what to do. You kind of have to figure it out on your own, because that really goes into the big cost of how much iRacing costs to really get into it. Which, I mean, that's another big sticking point why people hate on iRacing, is because I can go out there, I can buy ACC for $20 on sale or anything like that, but iRacing, I'm spending $15, a month on using it as a service. Now I'm have to spend another $12 on a car. Now I'm gonna have to spend another $15 on a track. So there's not really anything there that really helps people, contain that money in their keep that money in their wallet and spend it on something else. They're having to dump all that money in iRacing, which again, I mean, for me, sim racing is a hobby, so cost is not really that big of a deal. But for somebody that's really strapped on cash, I mean, they're really having to really pick and choose with no clear guidance on what to do. So, first thing for me is like they need to create a proper ladder saying, all right, here is the path that you need to take to get into your A class license, racing the super formulas, racing the new, Indy, IRA, whatever you want to call the upper echelon open wheeler. Same thing with the GT cars going all the way up to LMPs. So for me, that's like one of the big first things that iRacing needs to do for people is create a proper guide or a proper path to get to where you want to get to on your end game.
Sure. That would be terrific. And now they have problems because of what they've built. Like, to undo some of the madness is like really changing the whole system. So I see why they are in the mess that they are. So if you go onto iRacing, for example, and you just look at all the series available and just look at road, I wish I could make it open wheel specific, but just looking at road, the amount of series is, I don't know, like 40. I quick scroll, 30, 40 easily. Okay.
Yep.
And the reason is because if they charged you $15 for a car, it's kind of a funny line when they're going to make it obsolete or not have it anywhere to play with. And it's like they're almost torn between all the content is there if you were an iDriver and your thing was being able to drive on the track alone, test sessions, ghost laps, that kind of stuff. And then maybe having all of that content available is super awesome, right? But if you're an iRacer and you've been with the service for 10 years or so, and you've bought how many repetitive cars, but because they no longer run that GT3, or they no longer run that Porsche, or they no longer run the Skippy isn't the predominant car anymore because they've gone to this formula structure, you're just stuck with this car that you paid for, and then feeling obligated to buy the new one because it's what people are racing. But and I'm going to use that word people are racing so loosely because I'm going to come back to that when we're done. I want to stay on the latter topic because I feel like, I don't know, I heard what you said and I agree, and it's like, well, can they do both? Yeah. Can they leave this list of endless amount of things, A class, C class, B class, whatever, right? But can they create a spine within that blubber You got all that fat. Cool.
Yeah.
Can we create a spine? And I feel that you have enough clear disciplines and the content to provide multiple spines. In
Right.
this case, so we're creating quite the beast. But you have an open wheel career, sure. You have a GT career or a tin top career, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But and this is where I was crossing over to my next point.
Right.
Right now, there are 11,603 people online
Mm-hmm.
on iRacing. Beautiful Saturday.
Yeah.
11,000 people. But how hard is it to find a room with an abundance of people?
Right.
And it's because they are spread out amongst this list of 30 to 40 on the roadside.
Mm-hmm.
And you got 34 here. That's a good number. Up in the pro, I'm up in the pro level A class. 34, 63, 3,
Mm-hmm.
1, 3, 14, 191. That's impressive. 5, 141, 26, 0, 39, 5, 2, 0, 5, 0, 0, 0, 8, 2, 21. Anyway, I could go on and on, but I think you're seeing my point.
Yeah.
It is so diluted and so spread out, and what they need to somehow do is funnel people back together.
Right.
And I think creating what you were a specific ladder system, or as I referred to as a spine, filtering out so much of this extra content, it forces more people together. And numbers build numbers.
Yep.
Like the more people who, so I see that number of active racers online, and it's a big disappointment when I look at the amount of people who are in rooms. So when because even if I go to one of these rooms that says 32, well, now they're split into 6 different sessions. Some are racing.
Yeah.
And I think, why is it so hard to find, without being in like a handful of the chosen content? It just seems to be hard to find that. And I think that clear ladder system would encourage more racing.
Right.
It might graduate more drivers faster to the B and A licenses, so it isn't just so bottom heavy. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to, because you brought up your point between your iDrivers and your iRacers. Going back to that topic, because that's something that kind of rung with me, and this is something I had a discussion with Joe a while ago. And what I really enjoy is all right, so now iRacing is introducing AI races. If you don't want to race against other people, you can have an offline race with a bunch of AI, or go out and test drive cars and things like that. Well, this is to me, this is something they could take from me, which I think is probably the best feature out of Race Room, is you can test drive all the cars before you even purchase the car. So if you want to sit there and test, and this is a thing, because you don't know how cars behave, everybody has a different, unique driving style. So if your driving style might, if you want to drive in the GT3 class, your driving style might not match an AMG Mercedes GT3. It might match, be more closely to a Ferrari, but now you're having to buy both those one of those cars or both those cars, test them out, and now you're spending, about $30 on 2 cars. One you're probably never going to drive because it didn't suit your driving style. Whereas Race Room, hey, I can go in there, drive the car. Yeah, I like it. It fits my driving style. I can be quick with it. So I think iRacing now, if they're going heavy into AI, every patch they're updating more and more AI features. You can create a separation where if you're going to drive offline with AI, I don't think you should have to buy the car anymore. You should be able to you're already paying the monthly service fee. That should be able to cover you being able to drive offline in whatever car you want. But now if you want to race in officials, all right, now you're going to have to buy that car and drive it in the officials. Because that's going to get people, I hate to say, I hate to say this, but I kind of think it is a money grabbing scheme where every update, 3 or 4 cars, what are people going to do? They're going to buy the brand new shiny, and then a patch later they're going to nerf it, per se. But anyways,
the addition of the second SF23 car. Do you have to buy that, or is that a new purchase?
No, it's part of it. It's part of it.
So that okay.
Because all they
So
did
that
was
doesn't count.
just change the name from Honda to Toyota or Toyota to Honda. Like it's the same
I,
exact car, just a different
I
engine
I
manufacturer.
looked at the side by side and I couldn't tell a difference.
Yeah, Super
There's not a
Formula, like
visual.
it's the same spec car, just different engine for per se.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but anyways, yeah. So going back to it, I think where you should be, yeah. Now with AI driving and offline driving, you should be able to drive whatever car you want because you're paying the monthly fee. But now, if you want to race in officials, all right, you need to buy that car, and now you're buying the car that you want to drive, that you feel comfortable driving, and you're gonna get more out of your racing. You're gonna enjoy it more, which means you're probably gonna start racing officials a lot more than racing offline. So it's kind of a win-win, I think, for iRacing on that point.
Sure. I mean, I think they'd argue that new content sells so awesome
Yeah.
because people are desperate for content, and this gets back to iRacing isn't. You and I before the show were talking about game sales just in general
Right.
about the gaming community and how some pretty mediocre games, as long as they're from the right companies, get sales that are ridiculous. Like
Mm-hmm.
and look at like pre-order sales even
Yeah.
on games that bomb, right? But they sold 1 million copies before even the first person got to play the thing.
Cyberpunk.
Totally. How many people bought that game in advance to then
Yep.
find out how flawed and messed up? And I hear now it's a playable
I
game,
was
but
one
what
of
is
them.
this, 3 years later?
Yep.
Yeah. So, excuse me. I think because of this, it just shows this like addiction to gaming. The
Yeah.
gaming market. You think about the gamers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not the old guy of gaming even, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I grew up on this stuff, but the guys a generation before me even were the ones who were like creating it and playing the very, very first samplings in secrecy before it was mainstream enough to sell it, Toys R Us.
Yeah.
And so when you think of the gaming market, it's like it's totally normal for a 40-year-old person to have a PlayStation at their TV, even if they're not a gamer.
Yeah.
But that's just like how big and normal gaming has become in society. I mean, certainly in America and most Western cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, yeah, you get these cyberpunk scenarios where they sell 1 million copies, whether it's good or bad.
Yep.
I think sim racers, iRacers, because if you're an iRacing, that's the other thing. If you're in iRacing, that's probably your main sim because you're financially stuck.
Yeah.
You're like so invested that you better justify. So and then new content comes out and you're just like, oh, I gotta have it. And I think that they get so many sales on that prevents them
Yeah.
from. And again, that's why like looking at this from our side of it, the sim
Right.
racing side, versus from the business side. And sure, they have an obligation to their owners, shareholders, whatever, longevity, to have a certain level of money being made. But
Yeah.
at what point? Now, and I want to take this back full circle real quick, and then I'm going to shut up. This comes full circle back to what you were saying, though.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of had a lock on the community structured racing side of things, and
Yep.
we could argue tire model, physics, graphics, all these things till we're blue in the face.
Mm-hmm.
But what iRacing had that was truly special was their competitions and structure, their online racing that no other sim could compete with for almost a decade.
Yeah.
But now other sims are being built in the same way.
Yep.
Using more of the traditional gaming mentality. We're going to sell you a game for $50.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to even sell you monthly DLC, but we're only going to charge you like $5 for a DLC pack.
Yeah.
Versus $15 per car.
Mm-hmm.
Laser scanning is no longer unique and exclusive to iRacing. So these things that made, and when I left that out, when I said what made iRacing unique and exclusive was, well, the laser scanning.
Yeah.
In the beginning was very unique, and the measured accuracy of iRacing compared to others was night and day.
Yeah.
But that's not the case anymore.
Nope.
On all things.
Yeah, I mean, because I think new tracks are getting smart. Like they're doing the laser scanning. A lot of the new tracks are doing laser scanning on their own, and then selling it to the sim racing company. So now, like,
Yep.
they don't even have to go out and scan tracks. They can just go and buy. Like, I think Nürburgring was one of the first ones to start doing that, where, hey, we laser scanned our own track. Now, do you want to buy the data for it? Yeah.
Yep. I'm assuming, the other thing is you think about scanning technology. When iRacing started, you literally had to like take one of those like 3-post, things and put it, every 20 feet and do another scan and move it another 20 feet, get everyone out of the way because you don't need any garbage in the scan. Well, now scans are done on the fly.
Yeah.
Scans are even done by drone.
Yep.
So even the tracks of yesteryear that couldn't be done, like Formula One street courses. I think there's more possibility in the next year, 2, 3 years that even third-party companies get the scan, because at some point Formula One might want to open the doors beyond just Codemasters. So, hey, what the hell? We're at Miami. We're going to have our scan company go out and do it. We're going to make that scan available to the other sims.
Yeah.
There's more than just the sims, too, because behind the scenes, well, McLaren wants that.
Yeah.
Ferrari wants that. Williams wants that. So it's not just we, the sim racers, and none of them are using iRacing, by the way. The 3 I just named, they don't use iRacing anymore. There were a few years when they would have, but now they have their own.
Yep.
R-Factor 3 is what they have, by the way. ISI, Image Space Incorporated.
R-Factor Pro, right? Yep.
Yeah. All right. So this comes full circle because to me, I feel like there might be a timer.
Yeah.
On how. So even though we're coming at this from the guys paying with our credit cards, not the business perspective of making money.
Right.
Well, there might be a time limit on how long you can get away with this. And if you wait until it's too late, you'll already be done.
Yeah.
Because you could lower your prices, but we will have already migrated.
Yeah. I mean, just to comment on Joe real quick, because he was talking about, the problem's not iRacing releasing new cars, it's people wanting new shiny. And no, I'm not dissing, like, iRacing putting in all these new cars, because, I mean, for me, like, I would love to see, like, an actual, full field of all the cars in the GT3 series, all the full cars from the WEC, all the full cars from IMSA. That would be awesome. And I love the fact that, iRacing's adding, more and more cars, different cars to be used in races. What I guess I'm getting at is, but I think like adding all these new cars is just confusing brand new people into what path should I take to get into sim racing, where I want to get into top echelons. That was my point, is just like it's getting a little too confusing for a brand new person, because now you've got how many open wheel cars? Like, which one do I drive? Do I drive the Williams? Do I drive the Mercedes? Do I drive the Super Formula? Do I drive the Dallara IR18? There's not really any clear way for people to get to where they want to get to. And that's where I was getting at. They need to have a structured path saying, all right, here's what you need for your D license, your C license, all the way up to your A. Like, here's the cars that you need to get to where you want to get to be in the top echelons.
Sure. That's a great point. You think again, so much of this is, since their beginning, I've called iRacing an evolution sim.
Yep.
Right? As opposed to a counter, over the counter sim, $50 for a box title and get ready to buy a new one next year, every other year, whatever. iRacing, clearly an evolving sim.
Yep.
Part of the problem is, with an evolution, you're stuck into this framework, but you somehow do have to adapt over time to these kinds of things. So another great observation in my mind, looking back in time, at one point in time, iRacing was an adult sim.
Yep.
You needed to have your credit card in your name, and that was the only way in. And for the most part, it required being 18 years old to even comply with their terms of service. And so then when you say things like clear path, and it's like, okay, well, you are an adult, you can figure it out. It is racing. Racing isn't always the most welcoming place in the world anyway. But you go into an average race room on a Friday night and you hear a lot of 12-year-olds out on that track. Why? Because iRacing is a great training sim, and these are
Yep.
aspiring real-life racers, right? But how many of them don't have somebody showing them the path? They're
Yep.
just a kid trying to figure it out. And I know kids are brilliant, right? But at the same time, what about the ones that aren't? And it's like, what do I do? I
Yeah.
have all this stuff. What do I do with it? You know,
Yeah.
that's another thing we've said on the show for years. You know, now you got iRacing. What do you do?
Yeah.
You
Yeah, exactly,
know,
man. And yeah, that gets and I think that's the problem. So when too much content can't is great. I love too much content, but it also brings a lot of problems into dilutes the racing, creates all these unnecessary, I think, racing series that are officials that are out there. Um, so that's where I think, going into it, like maybe potentially start looking at getting rid of legacy cars, get rid of dead series. Like, I know there's a lot of like legacy cars. I mean, they're great. Make them offline. You can, I mean, it comes with the service because before they used to do that, you could get the legacy cars for free. And I think
right?
what 2-3 years ago they changed it to where now you got to pay to get legacy cars, which I thought
Yes.
was a huge misstep on iRacing's part because you
It was
can't
the
race them,
opposite direction. It was the opposite what
right?
they had to do. It was
Uh,
more legacy cars and still free.
Yeah. And then like for like the series, like I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate from some people, is like I'm gonna use the example like the Lotus 49. Like it still has an official series, but why? Like it doesn't even go official because they never have enough racers on there.
Right.
Like it maybe goes official like maybe once a week. So maybe just make that series a once a week series and focus your efforts on the actual popular stuff that's out there. That's gonna, where people are gonna be driving more and more. Because now you're just wasting server space and finances in that part. So
You
it's more,
know, they need to create their own minimum requirements for series. It's like if at
yeah,
the end of the season you haven't made enough official races, then it gets dropped. And
yeah,
this season they created something that gives me an idea.
hmm
I hope iRacing is listening and not offended. Um, the Ricmo Tech Ringmeister.
yeah,
So the Ricmo Tech Ringmeister series is always Nordschleife, right? But each week it's a different car.
yeah,
So take all this content that doesn't meet the minimum requirements and stop running series that dilute the grid and dilute the field. You might find an automatic ladder if you just did that alone.
yeah,
So if they just hit their own filter and were like, all these things that only had a 60% participation or less, drop them. And then look at what's left, and it might be a clear ladder.
yeah,
So now create more Ringmeister series where it's like, but now we have one per license,
hmm
road and oval, where we each week change the
yeah,
content based on all this content that we've sold you that we can't run a series for because not enough people do it.
hmm
But now we're going to create these more random. I'll call it the Boris Said series because my favorite reason when people ask me
yeah,
who's my favorite driver, I always say Boris Said. And
yeah,
they're like, why? I'm like, because the guy's driven every kind of car there is. That was
right,
like his thing. He would jump in anything they would pay him to race. And I've seen that guy race in every kind of car. And I'm like, that is the kind of career of
yeah,
racing that I would want. So yeah, you create the Boris Said series and utilize some of that content. You create a better channeling mechanism to get people into herd them into groups.
yeah,
It allows you to still sell content, but I argue they're going to have to change their pricing because
yeah.
the other guys, yeah,
No, that gets into. I mean, something we've been kind of hinting at throughout our discussions is, yeah, I mean, something's going to have to change with the pricing model that iRacing has. I mean, you're having ACC, you're having Automobilista 2, you're having Race Room where you can buy more content for a lot less money. I mean, because what is it? When we did our review for the last season of iRacing, I think you and me we spent like $60
yeah,
on the cars and the tracks that came out, so we could do a review on it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the price of a brand new game. When I could go and buy, I'm not. I mean, automobilists, their packs are a little bit more expensive, but like if I go ACC, like I'm spending $20 on a full pack, or I can get them even cheaper through other sources.
Hmm.
So if and this is like probably I think like one of the biggest complaints I hear in the community is iRacing's pricing model is just for a lot. Like they sit there and say we're here for the average racer. Like this is why our graphics can still run on a potato computer, and why for the longest time they said, oh, we can't run more than 8 cars because people's computers can't handle it. But you're pricing your service out of the price range of those people that are running on potato computers.
God, I
Uh,
never even thought of that, Amir.
right?
I never even thought of that angle. It's like the pricing structure of iRacing almost should demand that this be it's like, oh, well, you haven't bought a 5090 yet? Well, sorry, you're playing the state-of-the-art sim. We charge you, on average, you spend $30 a month here, and yet they let the $50 sims lead in every category
Yeah.
when it comes to graphics. And I always gave them credit for that run on a potato thing.
Right.
But with their pricing structure, that is sort of an oxymoron.
It is. This is something that's been bothering me. Like I've been thinking about for a long time. Is I thought about it originally when they said I think a year or two ago. No, because people were asking for more different cars in a series. Oh, we can't do that because people's computers won't be able to handle it. Well, then, but yet I'm paying you, you know, $15 a month. I'm paying you $15 for a new car, 20, or like $12 for a new car, $15 for a new track. But you're telling me that you still want to take care of the people running old computers. Well, if they can't afford a new computer, then how can they afford your prices in your
Exactly.
service, right? So, which when people complain about it on social media and stuff like that, like, and I see the responses from other people, and they're not whatever those. I'm not even gonna get into those responses, but I kind of like sympathize with them. I do agree. Because I mean, somebody that makes like minimum wage or a little bit above minimum wage aren't, they've got, especially in today's economy and how things are going with the other sims, like it's a big churn off for a lot of people to try iRacing. And no matter what people's opinions are of iRacing, whether it's good or bad, I personally think it's a great sim for competitive multiplayer racing. Like there's nothing out there that can rival it, but yet you're alienating a large group of people that can even afford to get in iRacing. You're pushing them toward ACC. You're pushing them towards R Factor. You're pushing them towards Automobilista,
Hmm.
where there's other services out there where they can get into competitive racing and do what they want to do and not be in iRacing.
Yeah. I'm going to give iRacing a few other free ideas here. So let's say they don't change their pricing structure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, I mean, the ladder's a topic of its own. I think we're not the only. It's not the only time I've said it. You've said it. The world said. I
Yeah.
think it's pretty clear, right?
Mm-hmm.
I understand why they're compelled to do it. It's because they charge you so much for the V8 supercar that nobody races. I'm looking
Right.
0, 0, 0, 0. There are 0 people running either version of the supercar series right now. And I know that's a beloved series, and when Supercar season's on, I'm sure that those numbers will escalate.
Yeah.
But, um, uh, uh, fine, leave your pricing alone. Well, then, how about this? How about doubling and making it more clear to people that you get participation credits?
Yeah.
But how about doubling the amount? Like, hey, you want to make it so that I can make my iRacing cheaper? Cool. Let me get credits by being part of the racing community,
Right.
which builds more racing, which is,
Yeah.
again, kind of our whole point here is we'd like to see there being more open racing going on, giving people just like, hey, cool, look at this cool race going on. I'm in it. And then that allows you to at least buy your discount
Yeah.
by running. The other is, how about giving out a few credits for like top 5, top 10 at the end of a season with
Yeah.
a certain minimum participation? I mean, like you've made a lot of money off of your racing community, how about giving it back to them directly in the form of awards?
Yeah.
You have all these sponsored series, and you're making those companies pay you advertising and then give products away as the prizes. That's cool, but it's usually just like put our sticker on your car for 12 races and you're eligible. And it's like, how about racing be racing? How about you let me win the new Super Formula car? Yeah,
Yeah.
I got the new Super Formula car because I won a Mazda because I top 10 in the Mazda
Yeah.
championship, and I got that car as a bone. Give me the freaking car. Don't
Right.
even give me credits. Give me play some Gran Turismo for a day,
Yeah.
iRacing, and all of a sudden, bling. And this is if we had 2 hours to do this show, I would go in a whole direction on how
Yeah.
much they missed the social aspect of racing. How about again, You've won. Congratulations, Ameer.
Right.
You top 10 in the Miata official championship. Here is your prize car. Because
Yeah.
they look at your inventory and see that you don't have the new Super Formula,
Yep.
and it's under a drape, and you press click, and it comes off, and golden things fall from the sky. And what would that, I mean,
Yeah.
to me, that would make me race more.
Yeah.
To me, it would make me feel like iRacing's given something back
Yeah.
off of everything that we've all given forward.
Yeah.
So
Something I just
yeah,
thought of too, where, I mean, how about like, because some games do this where you have a tiered service. So, I mean, so I say, I mean, one of the things I could probably say, like, all right, iRacing, you could discard all of our ideas. My idea kind of would be along the lines of, all right, you're paying your, however much you're paying for your monthly sub for, to access the services. How about like give you the option, like, all right, you can pick 3 cars to race from for this season. And this is what you get to race. Like you just pay the monthly service
right.
fee and you pick 3 cars.
And it
And
caps you even. Sure, those are
yeah,
the only 3 you're going to get to do.
and if you
Great.
want to buy more cars, you can go ahead and buy more cars, but here are the 3 cars that you get to drive with no added cost in iRacing. I don't know. That's one of my ideas. And maybe like if you race, if you if you get hit top 5 in your championship standings, then you get that car as part, forever to use whenever. Then, next season you get 3 more cars. I don't know. I
Yeah,
think that's probably a good way to do it too.
I do too. Getting back to a couple other things, like how about some trade-ins? You
Yeah.
know, like I'm sorry, but like how many almost identical Ferrari GT3s do I have? I mean, like when I pull them up and I look at them, I laugh at it. It's like those are the same car.
Yep.
I mean, I know that year by year that the sanctioning series makes subtle little changes,
Hmm.
but they're the same car because the other one didn't exist in their series
Yeah.
anymore. And it just, I feel it feels a little unfortunate to me to see that repeated on a handful of cars too, like even NASCARs.
Yeah.
NASCAR would be different because if you just like NASCAR just has their 3 classes of racing.
Right.
So if you just automatically were like, well, they changed from the Twisted Sister to this, we give it to you for free, trade in, whatever. That might not work the same on oval as it would on road.
Yeah.
And the other thing, because you had talked about test drives.
Hmm.
I'm even okay with them pulling the AI out of that. Like,
Really?
let it be no
Okay.
frills. I mean, like, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
how about just an opportunity to take any of the cars you'd like me to buy out on the track and in a moment that really doesn't matter that much. Because if it's just sitting on my shelf
Yeah.
and I didn't buy it the day it came out
Yeah.
or within the first 2 weeks, chances are I'm not going to
No.
unless my league forces me to.
Right.
I don't see how that would, like if you didn't buy it, like again, if you didn't buy the SF23,
Hmm.
right? And a month goes by, I'm pretty convinced you're not going to buy that car outside of
Yep.
some outside force. And that gets back to the test drive, maybe even selling things,
No, I agree. I mean, because I think like I would go through my iRacing like inventory of cars. Like I'd probably say like maybe 80% of those cars I'll probably never touch again. Either like, because we bought them for like doing our reviews or things like that. But yeah, so like like I can't even like I've sat there and I don't even want to calculate how much money I've spent in iRacing, but like I look at it as like I'll probably never use 80% of these cars anymore unless we do a league race where we're going back to those cars. So yeah, I think, and it kind of gets into where over ever since COVID, like we've seen what's happened with companies that have refused to evolve. And I'm not talking about sim racing companies. I'm talking about like just companies in general, where we've seen like a lot of brick and mortar companies just disappear because they refuse to evolve. I mean, I guess the biggest case is Blockbuster. I mean,
Sure.
in the 80s and 90s, Blockbuster was one of the biggest video rental companies probably in the world. And along comes like a little nobody, created this company called Netflix. And he wanted to merge with Blockbuster, but Blockbuster's like, no, people are still going to come to our stores and buy our videos. Like that's part of the experience. But little did he know that people don't care. Like if I can sit there and just order a DVD in the mail, it comes straight to my mailbox. That's one less trip I have to make. Or now that I'm
Yeah.
doing streaming, like I don't have to leave my house to watch the movie that I want. So like Blockbuster disappeared, Toys R Us disappeared. Like a lot of other companies are disappearing because they refuse to evolve. And I'm kind of seeing that now with iRacing. Like while the other sims are changing, like iRacing continues to be the way it is and doesn't feel like it wants to evolve to suit where now sim racers are going. Because yeah, 10 years ago, you said it, most people that were sim racing and iRacing were adults. They had a cash, they were spending it, but now we're seeing all these other sims pop up and people are gravitating to those sims and moving away from iRacing. So this is why we're talking about is like we want to see iRacing move and evolve to encompass the majority of sim racing. Yeah, there's going to be a sim racer out there going to say iRental or iSliding or whatever you want to call it. Like they will always hate iRacing, but for the people that are on the fence or people that have been wanting to try but are financially strapped, or even like current people that are thinking about leaving for other stuff, like you need to start thinking about those people to bring more customers to your side on the service.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that crossover is. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and we don't get to know the economics. I don't know how much profit iRacing
Yeah.
makes. I don't know. So it's really hard to know how much they could reduce prices and still be cost effective. But at some
Right.
point, those things always crisscross too.
Yep.
Because, and this is, I think, a lot of the argument is what they've been doing worked. But
Yeah.
what they've been doing hasn't changed much. Like, it's almost like rain,
Right.
look over here. But the core problem to me is more what we've talked about here.
Yeah.
And I just think that the next gen sims are coming.
Yeah.
iRacing, for all intensive purposes, just seems to be on that same agenda, though.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing it with Rensport. Rensport is completely changing the game when it comes to like. Well, I mean, we still don't know really if they're going to have a pricing model or anything yet. But the things they've talked about is like, Shaun, you've bought a Ferrari GT3. You've painted it. You've done all this paint schemes for it. Let's say you made this amazing Simpit paint scheme, and now you have who would say you'd buy a used car? Star Fox said he would buy a used Ferrari GT3 car from you. Like Star Fox doesn't have to go through Rentsport to buy it; he can buy it from you.
Right.
He doesn't. So you charge him. Let's say instead of spending the $12 you would spend in iRacing, you charge like, hey, I'm gonna sell this car for $5. Comes with the glorious sim paint scheme, everything that you want on it. It's using Pirelli tires, not Michelin tires. And like you could sell it to Star Fox for $5 and he can go and race it in Rentsport, which I know there's a lot of hate out there and like people thinking, I'm never going to race anything that I can mod in a sim. Like, mods are not good for sims, but mods can be used for good things in a sim depending on how it's implemented. And for you to say like, hey, Shaun, you're tired of racing the Ferrari, I want to switch to the Porsche. Well, you can sell now your Ferrari to Starfucks, and he can race the Ferrari instead of having to buy it for $10 from Rennsport, for example. And this is just hypothetical. We don't know what Rennsport's going to do, but
and so this is, I almost want our next show to be, I almost want the next show to be called Ready Player One. I just feel like right now we're actually being deprived of the next gen concept of what gaming across the board. This isn't even just a shot at iRacing or sim racing, but that why is there not more layers to the whole concept of being within gaming?
Right.
It's still all this. I go into Windows and I turn it on, or and it's like, oh no. You need to be in the gaming environment the minute you turned it on.
Yeah.
And then choosing directions and paths. Well, the reason I say this is, and I don't want to do this now, but when I go to iRacing and I look at your stats, it's presented in. I don't even want to. iRacing was created in what year? 2010 ish.
Oh.
2009.
Something like that. 2000. Something like that. Yeah. I can't remember. It's been so long ago.
As great as iRacing is keeping endless amounts of stats, and I can go look at your stats, it is like 1982 database crap. And I know that is to this day the backbone of data. That's how data is stored efficiently. But it doesn't have to be presented that way, right? And so when you talk about a used car, well, what if you could buy a used car from like you said, maybe somebody, infamous. What if it was from a winning esport guy?
Yeah.
But the reason I'm saying it is, what if the stats on the car, which are just as easily tracked as driver stats, were part of it? The car had mileage.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that it has to work or operate differently. This is more statistical. Right. It has 54 wins.
Yeah.
And you're buying a car with some heritage from so and so.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying this is because this is just starting to touch into that whole thing that I've been thinking about for years, which is, where is my Ready Player One version of iRacing? I want to go to your stat page and I want to see your trophy room. I want to be able to look at your paint jobs. I want to be able to, and if you want to be greedy iRacing and make some money without selling cars or drop prices on cars and start selling other things, well, cool. Sell me a fancier garage that holds more trophies or more showroom paints that I want to display. But now people can start to have an online presence, a house. Like they're talking about virtual worlds and owning a house. And, there's already
that's been going on for years.
Yeah, but it's like they're already retail like boulevards in the virtual world where like Saks Fifth Avenue and companies have paid millions of dollars to have front row prime real estate in these worlds. And it's like, a mini version of that could be built into iRacing that could really help enhance other aspects of the game. Getting back to what's my point? I want people out on track. I want them racing. Well, more trophies is cool. It'd be even cooler if someone else could actually see my trophies. And I got a message from a fellow competitor like, dude, I raced against you the other day and you beat me. I went to your trophy room and had no idea who I was racing against. Right? I mean, like, where is this? And this is interaction and community that could exist. And again, using Ready Player One as an example. And, that's next level. We're still at the basics of, hey, just clean it up a bit and you'll have a lot going on.
Yeah.
Give some rebates, you'll have a lot going on. Drop your price a little bit, you'll have a lot going on, but the competition's coming.
Yep. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, there's so many things we could keep on going about and talking about artists and the things that we can change. We could make this like a whole 3-4 hour podcast. So I'm going to try to bring it back and move on to our next topic, because it kind of goes in line with, downfalls. Like we talking about, downfalls of companies. And so you're probably already guessing, guys, as we're going to be talking about Motorsport Games. This is a company that's been talked about for a couple years now because I mean when they first came out on the scene, they were just buying everything left and right. They bought R Factor 2, Studio 397. They bought licenses. They bought, the license to, Le Mans. They bought the BTCC license, IndyCar, NASCAR, karting. They bought Traxxon GG. And so, and they went strong and heavily, people were like, what is going on here? Like, who is this company? Uh, but as of this year, like we've started to see a lot of cracks in this company, and we're not even sure that this thing's even gonna last. So, uh, I think there was a lot of people that were wary about this company from the get go. Some people already kind of knew a history of the people that were behind Motorsport Games. I mean, there was like reserve, there were people that were like, all right, this company is doomed to fail. There were some people that had reserved, comments about it. It was like, oh, we'll see what happens. And there were people that were happy about it. So kind of, Sean, where are you falling in that category? Like ever since, we've heard about Motorsport Games.
It's I think about it from this very beginning, which is Motorsport Games began in 2018.
Yep.
An IPO. This is basically a rich person's crowd-funded company, right? Isn't that what a
Kind of, yeah.
That's an unpolite way of putting it, but that's how I feel about it. And they started buying companies that had been in this industry for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I know it's all about money, and I get it. I understand it, but that doesn't mean it's right, and it doesn't mean it's certainly, in this case, not in the benefit of the people. So they're able to buy assets that would be able to survive through the good times and the bad times of gaming, because it hasn't always been the glory years that it is now, and make products with passion.
Yeah.
With the people who started it when it was version 1.
Mm-hmm.
And now that it was at version 2 or the 5th or 10th title they've made,
Yeah.
it was still the heart and soul and blood of those people. And then you get a company that's nothing more than just a company formed out of making money and buying assets in a certain field. And I'm simplifying it in a very not in their favorable way, but
right.
I mean, I don't think it's I don't think it's that far off. I mean, I'm not
right.
that far in the field right now, I don't think. But it's not a good recipe. And when you overspend,
mm-hmm.
which when you build something organically,
yep,
it's hard to overspend because your budget never allows for that. Month 1, like the reason the Simpit doesn't have a giant fancy studio is I don't have the income to do it. I can't overspend what I don't have. When you're just a big fund of money, a pile of money, you can spend at free will. And then when those numbers don't add up, all of those assets can die or be sold off. But it's like, I don't know. To me, it's such a shame is what it really is.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of thing that I think is paralleled in real life. It's not just a sim racing story. This is the sim racing example. But this is a story of modern capitalism to an extent. And I don't want to get political, but it's not always pretty, and it's not always win-win stories. So in this case, the mom and pop shop got taken out. Or was about to. I mean, they're on life support. We can't call it dead yet.
Yeah. I mean,
in a nutshell, that's kind of where my attitude is on the whole concept.
To me, it's kind of like, it kind of mirrors, I mean, we're going to show our ages here, but like the movie Wall Street back from the 80s with, Martin and Charlie Sheen and all that, where, you've got these greedy capitalists that are just trying to make as much money as they can off of as many things as they can,
avoiding a market,
right? And so I mean, you had Motorsport Games. I mean, within 2 years, I would say, I mean, they were buying up so many things. I mean, and the first kind of worries, I think for me, that came out is when they bought the license for Le Mans, because to me, Le Mans one of my favorite events in iRacing, and then all of a sudden it's like iRacing couldn't do Le Mans anymore. I mean,
Right.
they created a series parallel to say, all right, we're going to do the endurance series and we're going to include Circuit de la Sarthe in it. But you couldn't really call it the 24 hours Le Mans because it wasn't usable anymore. So now this company was trying to, I guess, come in really quick, really fast, dominate the market and make it their market. And, where everybody's going to have to start using, if you want to use 24 hours Le Mans, you have to race in our sims. If you want to race BTCC, you have to be in our stuff. So it really, to me, from the very get go, was very worrying seeing all the stuff that they were buying up, make all these exclusive licenses that they were creating. And then, then they got Traxon.gg to be like their news media mouthpiece where, all right, like, how's this going to go? Are they trying to tailor now the sim industry to them, like bow down to them, where like, all right, now if kind of like, because there are companies that do that in other industries where, if you give us money, we'll give favorable reviews on our website for your products. We will say you've got the greatest product in the world if you pay us some money. So now they're shaping news media, they're shaping products of how they're going to be. Like, for example, just, hypothetically, we're using like SimMagic and Moza. Let's say, I mean, they both make some great products at some really good prices. But let's say Moza, they sit there and say to, Motorsport Games, hey, we'll pay you $100,000 to give us reviews, but we don't want you talking about SimMagic. Or if you do talk about SimMagic, we want you to talk about them in a bad light. So now they're shaping what people buy, and maybe, it could be with a good product, bad product we're talking about, but it could be a lot of different things. And this is what I was worried about, is how they were trying to shape the sim racing industry and the market to their specifications. So now, yeah, like we're saying, Joa, now it's backfiring on them, where we've seen, like, this year alone, they've lost about 43% of their market share values. They've lost $8 million. They've got, I think, what we talked about, a little over $1 million left to operate for the rest of this year. Multiple lawsuits. I think now NASCAR talking about getting rid of their license, the exclusive license with them. IndyCar's now coming out saying we might not even see our game ever come out. Like, we like what we saw, but it might never see the light of day. So now we're kind of seeing I don't know if we're gonna say the fall of Motorsport Games, because we did have who was the original president CEO, Dmitry Kozov or something like that, or Kosko, Dmitry Kosko. He stepped down, and now we have Stefan Hood from the original Codemasters F1 games. He stepped up to be the new president CEO, trying to write the course on this company.
But how do you write it on that budget and those numbers?
Right.
I mean, like, that's coming in. That's like coming in to be the CEO to lead the slaughter.
Yeah, exactly. And what kind of worries me is, like, now you've got, all these companies that they bought. Like, what's going to happen to them if they end up falling apart? Like with, we're going to have Studio 397. We're going to have a couple other companies. Like, what's going to happen with them if Motorsport Games goes down? Like, I never want to see a sim racing company go down and disappear, because that means less competition. Because I want to see healthy competition between the sim titles. So yeah, I'm kind of worried what's going to happen going into the next year with everything that's been going on.
$1, Joa, for $1. Star Fox said something, and this is really an important part of a lot of everything. And to this day, this is still holding on as a big deal in sim racing.
Mm-hmm.
The COVID bubble is over.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of companies, hardware and software, didn't realize that those 2, 3, 4, 1,000% growth curves that they saw were due to some outside force, not because of the quality of their shit. So and then when that stopped, whether you're talking hardware companies and inventory or software companies and it's just straight up overhead,
Yeah.
it just doesn't add up. And this gets back to when you grow organically, you're protected from these forces somewhat. I'll say this for the Simpit. We didn't see the giant growth spike that some others saw, but we haven't seen any fall off because of COVID either.
Right.
So, yes, well, we've been such an organically grown show that we're just not as influenced by those outside forces. But when you look at Motorsport Games, and it's like, well, they're raising capital during this. They're raising and buying assets as sim racing is going up exponentially by the week.
Yeah.
And then that even plateaus, or as we've seen, I think I think that it's dropping because so many people who just were at home and had nothing better, I'll try sim racing. And they were short timers. We've always had a certain amount of short timers in sim racing. The people who come in and disappear 6 months later and we never see them again, versus the hardcore group. And I don't care what community you're in, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you do, or if you do know what I'm talking about, you're that hardcore group.
Yeah.
You know it. But yeah, comers and goers is normal. We just had a lot more people coming in for 2-3 years straight.
Yeah, I mean, and you kind of mentioned it earlier. Like you said the iRacing numbers at the time. I think you said like around 12,000 people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember what the numbers were during COVID? I mean, we were close to 17 to 20,000 people at a time in iRacing.
I was gonna say 18. So yeah, you
Yeah.
and I saw it the same way. So like 80% growth.
Yeah.
It's massive.
Because I think we were lucky to have about 10,000 before COVID, and that almost doubled during the height of COVID. But now we're back to a lot of people now. All right, I can go back outside again. I can do other things again, and sim racing has gone down. And I think as the world started opening back up again, all of a sudden you started seeing a lot of sim racing equipment for sale on Facebook Marketplace and other places.
And you actually saw a drop in the pricing.
Yeah.
Like we went from where everything was sold out and you could probably put something online used for double the retail price and sell it.
Yeah.
And then it just all of a sudden you had all these people getting rid of gear at the same time that the companies had finally recovered from the COVID inventory as well.
I mean, because I remember, I remember it too, because you were going off one day during COVID. Like, you were trying to buy a new Logitech camera, and every place was sold out. You couldn't even buy a streaming camera because so many people were getting
knockoff. Right. Yeah, it was horrible. You couldn't buy a microphone. It was amazing streaming.
Everybody got into streaming or doing like their teleworking and stuff, but like. Yeah, I mean, we saw so many new sim racing channels pop up, or people just streaming on Twitch, which is great. I mean, more exposure to sim racing, and we still retain some of those people. But we saw a huge downfall of sim racers after COVID went away, and now we're seeing that with Motorsport Games. I think like. At first, they were like, "Oh yeah, let's buy up everything that we can because sim racing is going to be around for a long time." But I mean, those numbers went away, and I think because they bought so many things at such a quick pace. They started doing all these events really, really quick, but didn't really have the infrastructure to back it all up. I mean, it's still to this point where, I mean, I think like. Probably a big reason too is, I mean, no one's gonna ever forget this for a long time, is Verstappen, saying, "I'm deleting this game" after he was in the Motorsport Games virtual Le Mans, because people were able to hack into the infrastructure and and DDoS people out of the race. Yeah. So I don't think that did any favors for Motorsport Games either.
No, they've had some tough breaks as well, but again, how about entering the market by putting out a sim, and building a reputation on that, and then kind of growing from there. I'll give iRacing credit, even though we talked about their pricing structure, not to go back to them, but
Yeah.
they're able to take whatever they've made and turn that into the Outlaw Sprint Car
Yeah.
console game, right? Which I haven't played, but it was like their second venture. They built that organically to an
Hmm.
extent, so to speak. So I do applaud them on that. But yeah, so what happens to, like if Motorsport Games survives
Hmm.
on the budget they have,
Hmm.
how and when will we see content?
I mean, yeah, it's gonna be tricky because we do have the WEC game coming out. That's under the Motorsport Games banner. I mean, it's being made by the Studio 397, the R Factor 2 guys. That was originally supposed to be coming out this year, but it's been kind of we're not sure. Um, but we've already known that everybody that was working on the NASCAR title, those offices have gotten shut down, and that's more because of the Ukraine war than anything else. I don't know if I should have been mentioning that on YouTube, but anyways, so like a lot of the offices that were working on that title, those offices shut down, and now those employees are suing and successfully suing Motorsport Games for unpaid wages. And now we've got IndyCar themselves coming out and saying like, we don't know if our title's ever going to see the light of day. So I mean, I don't know if it's going to look good. Maybe WEC's close enough to completion to where they can release it and make some money out of it. But I mean, they're going to need to either get new investors or possibly even sell the company, which I think there are rumors about that they're looking at somebody to buy Motorsport Games to continue doing the development they're doing with their other titles that are behind it. They're still out there waiting to be released.
Yeah. And this isn't Motorsport Games' fault per se, but I also feel, getting back to the COVID aspect,
Yeah.
I think we are on the brink where like the automotive and racing industry understood the power and importance of sim racing,
Yeah.
so that they were getting very eager to have their stuff in games and being very generous with licensing
Yeah.
and things like that, and being open about it, because it was like, oh, cool, we're just trying to get our name out there. And then because of the COVID spike, of course, just like we've talked about, greed set in.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, these companies are like, oh, yeah, 24-hour Le Mans, that's the title the sim racing world's been waiting for. And it's like,
Right.
I know that is the biggest race of the world, right?
Yeah.
But it's not a great title for a
No.
sim. I know. And wow, to block that asset from others
Yeah.
thinking, this is almost like the IndyCar split. It's like, wow, you don't understand what the important part is, do you?
Yeah.
Anyway, for that to be their big hope. Well, I guess NASCAR would be as well. Yeah, it's a shame. And then it's going to take a little while for that dust to settle, because
Yeah.
those assets, let's say they do fail,
Yeah.
those assets are going to take a little time to get rid of, because they're going to be done by the creditors
Yeah.
in an attempt to get any money that they can. So if I have that NASCAR license, I'm like, okay, this is like one of the holy grails. I'm getting
Yep.
as much as I can because we're out. So that's in the fail. And in the succeed category, it's like, well, who's gonna, how many people and who is working for them
Yeah.
with what they have going on financially and what they've been doing with paying bills?
Mm-hmm.
So it could take forever to, like, NASCAR 23 could be NASCAR 26.
Yeah. I mean, I think like we're lucky, at least with NASCAR, where I believe they only had the console license. They didn't have the PC license for NASCAR. But yeah, like, and as much as people talk about, they want to see Motorsport Games fail, they want to see them disappear. I'm more in the line of I want to see them succeed. Hopefully, under the new leadership of Stephen Hood, they can regain some control and because I want to see more titles come out, I want to see more competition because it's going to make the other titles have to step up their game. I would like again all the employees that work for them. Like if they go down and under, like what's going to happen to all the employees that work for them? Now they're gonna have to go out and find new jobs and other things. You know, again, like the economy right now is not really the best. You know, utility prices are through the roof. Housing market's crazy. Like you know, now those people are going to not have a job. So what are they going to do in the meantime? So in that
Oh,
regards,
Lionheart. Yeah, Lionheart. I feel bad for you guys in particular, being such
yeah.
passionate IndyCar drivers.
Oh, dude, yeah, that was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I completely forgot about that. Thanks for mentioning that, Lionheart, because yeah, every single community that was streaming or race broadcasting IndyCar, they had to stop. Even iRacing couldn't even do it anymore.
Yeah.
To me, like that's more on the dirty side. That is more on the dirty text, which I never agree a company should have to stop doing, you know, exclusive licenses or doing that. Like I think that's like the biggest BS. Like that's even like through the Sony and Microsoft wars, you know, where
Right.
I can't play a specific game on an Xbox because of exclusivity, whatever. I think that's a bunch of BS and bullshit that should never happen. But yeah, like Lionheart, like you guys had to stop broadcasting your races because of it, or there was multiple other people that had to stop doing what they were doing. You couldn't even call 24 hours Le Mans, 24 hours Le Mans in anything. I don't even think like you could even hold an event called that an R Factor 2 because that was only Motorsport Games could hold an event called that. So yes, I don't think stuff like that should happen. But again, I never want to see companies fail because of the people that work behind them, and then you know that other companies could continue coasting, I guess, and not have to fear competition anymore on that side.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so again, I'm with you though. I mean, I don't want to root against them.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I've just always believed is that it's really important that we have a variety of different
Yeah.
companies overlapping. You know, overlapping. So, like, obviously, you don't want the exact same sim being developed out of all the same companies. The
Yeah.
overlap is how we find a diversity of cars, tracks, even. Sim tier levels. I
Yeah.
don't want to say that and piss people off, but hey, we know there's a hierarchy of sim level.
Forza
Um,
Simcade.
yeah, well,
No,
but
okay.
but see, but it's Forza that forces or gives ideas
Yes.
to even the hardcore sims, and then the hardcore sims are always pushing Forza because Forza knows that a certain amount of their drivers are like, yeah, but the physics, or yeah, but the controller support, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it keeps both sides striving and learning from each other, and it's so essential. And as they disappear, and the license is the first step.
Yep.
Exclusives is a shitty word for all of us.
Yep.
Sorry, I get it. I'm gonna use that level of swear when I'm upset here on this show. Um, but yeah, when that exclusive word starts happening, it really. I
Yeah.
mean, and I again, it's such a tough line, right?
Yep.
Because now we're stepping on the toes of capitalism. And I know that capitalism unchecked is something that so many people hold near and dear to their heart, myself included. I don't know if unchecked is what I'd hold near and dear
Yeah.
to my personal heart. But capitalism is a tough
Yeah.
word. Greed is good.
Right.
Gordon Greco, as you said, right? Greed is good. It's in the name of making money. That's what
Mm-hmm.
capitalism underlying first definition would be.
Yeah.
And at the same time, well, greed only works in the benefit of certain individuals at the expense of everybody else.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line?
Yep.
I want motorsport. I want iRacing to be profitable,
Yeah.
and I want them to not just stick it to us.
Yep.
I want Motorsport Games to succeed, but I don't really like them using their licensing power, which was all paid for, and now they can't sustain the finances.
Right.
It's an irony that doesn't sit well with me. It's that irony that makes it harder to swallow. If this had just been R Factor and a license or two that they own,
Yeah.
and that company's struggling, it'd be a completely different
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. And again, like I was just going through some of the comments. Like, I'm not hating on Forza, Dave. I'm just joking about that. I was kind of just to mess with you a little bit. Uh, and then Marcel Offerman, yeah, he mentioned that EA does the same thing with F1. Yes and no on that regards. So F1, I believe they said last year. So there, F1 is really a really tricky thing when it comes to licensing because with F1 cars, like they have their certain IP that's protected, that's a secret, where where you have to make it's not you're not just making an agreement with FIA on a Formula One license, but you're also having to make agreements with the individual teams because they do have a lot of controlling power in Formula One. This is why, like, if you're a Formula One fan, like Mario Andretti, he's trying to get into Formula One, even though I think news came out that FIA approved their entry to Formula One. The teams still have to vote and allow them in. They can't just come in because FIA allowed them. So it's a really tricky thing. And I know, like, FIA or was open to creating a more sim-based Formula One game. Not just with Codemasters, but they're open to having other companies allowed to come in where I think they're trying to do like the whole EA thing where you have Dirt Rally and then Dirt 2. One was more of a sim, one was more of an arcade title, like a split between them. So the F1 is a bit tricky when it comes to that sort of things because you do see in iRacing, you do see, the old Williams, you see the new Mercedes, like you're going to have Mercedes' last year car and the year before that, but now you're having to make agreement with individual teams to bring those cars into a sim, which that can be very tricky and that can turn off a lot of sim companies like iRacing, AMS, and R Factor 2. So that's why we only see EA, because EA is such a big company. They could throw the money and weight behind it to get the F1 title. Because they have to do all the other team type stuff.
I find in general, I'm such a damn the man mentality kind of person. But I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So, and Marcel mentioned we need an open source sim community, maybe.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking, yeah, it would be really cool. And I was kind of thinking about like the BeamNG with the car tycoon. What was that game? Automation tied into it, and being able to manufacture cars that then imported and worked into Beam. And then I'm like, the beauty of that whole thing is it all sidestepped any licensing, right? Because there was a car that looked just like a 914, but it was just not enough identical to it that you could argue it was a Fiat X19. And so it was just unique enough that it wasn't either. But then I was like, yeah, but even the damn the man guy, yeah, but I need to race at Laguna.
Yeah.
Like I don't, like, you could make the greatest sim in the world of fantasy tracks only, no licensing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd play or how much I would compared to turning laps at Laguna in a Miata, a Skippy, whatever.
Because I remember, what sim was that? Live for Speed is kind of like that, right? Where they had some official cars, but then they had some unlicensed cars on there. Like, Live for Speed's a great sim. Like, I've tried it a couple times, but I think you kind of like, but nobody races it because most of the cars are unlicensed cars, right?
Yeah. They said like their car would look like a Ferrari nose with a Porsche rear end.
Yeah.
Like, so they were recognizable-ish cars, but they didn't have at the end they had a license for like the BMW Formula car, and then like a VW, I think.
Something like that. Yeah.
VW? Live for Speed was acting like they were going to come back to life for a little while, a few years ago. I remember that, and then nothing panned out of that, which is really a shame. Really a shame. With the licensing on that Formula One car, you can get individual car licenses.
Yeah,
but you can't.
Yeah.
Formula One is a different title, a different name.
Yeah, getting into it. So, like, I think from what I've understood from stuff like the F1 license, yes, once you get the F1 license, that means you get access to all the cars. But then the tricky part is, because the teams have so much power when it comes to that stuff, that you're playing a different game than you're doing with like, the World Endurance Series, IMSA, and things like that.
It's sort of like the Reggie bar.
Yeah.
Reggie could put his name on a candy bar,
Yeah.
but he couldn't be in a Yankees uniform, right? I think his head was tilted up so you couldn't see the logo. It was just a black hat. It was just stripes, no NY,
Yep.
right? Like yes, you own you. Yes, Williams, you own your name and car,
Yeah.
but you don't have any licensing to Formula One.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is tricky. And again, this all comes back to I didn't know this would be the word of the day. I wish I had a little button to press. Capitalism.
Yeah.
If you have a name that is worth value, then
Mhm.
you get to charge for use of it.
Yeah.
It's one of the most basic parts of all of it, and so a lot of things we're talking about, whether it is Motorsport Games or it is iRacing or it a lot of times it's just going to go to the bottom dollar. Now, I've made an argument for years, and right now I can tell you, I was a avid NASCAR fan
Yeah.
in like 1986.
Mhm.
1986 is right when they started selling off and splitting off certain races and
Mhm.
parts of the season, and a lot of it was done usually to like a conglomerate that owned 2 or 3 channels. So they're like,
Yeah.
oh, we'll put it on TNT and USA. I don't remember the exact channels it was
Right.
on. But as soon as it switched from that like tried and true model of pre-mid 80s,
Mhm.
where it was like on the same channel every Sunday. They might change it every 3 years to a different channel, right?
Right.
But ultimately, you didn't have to put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah.
And when they did that, I'm like, I understand why, because they probably got paid a lot of money to do that.
Yeah.
But what they're not taking into consideration is protecting their asset.
Mhm.
Because that's when I saw the beginning of other things happening. Like all of a sudden, they're like, oh, we didn't show you the end of the race because the baseball game came up.
Yeah.
And that never happened when it was a single contract, really basic, right?
Mhm.
It was only when it got to this greedy level of selling it off and even to the
Yeah.
point. So, like right now, you look at football. Where did you have to tune in for Thursday night
Yeah.
football? Amazon Prime.
Mhm.
That is the kind of thing that, as a viewer, starts to really have me go,
Yep.
oh, well, you're not protecting your asset. Because Amazon Prime doesn't always have the best bandwidth.
Nope.
I might not be in a position to watch the game on Amazon Prime, so I
Yeah.
understand Amazon paid the NFL a shit ton of money. I
Yeah.
used the word again, third time.
I think it's your max
But
there,
what
man.
what the NFL didn't do, and maybe they did, maybe they thought it was a new marketing, like
Right.
open them, which with the viewership of the NFL, you don't know. I don't buy that. It was
Yeah.
for money.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, to me, you're not protecting your asset because now you don't guarantee the quality of the experience for the viewer.
Yep.
And that is the first step to losing viewers in my
Yeah.
mind.
I mean,
And
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, yeah, you're talking about like 80s and the 90s. I mean, you just switch to your local channel to watch football. And I remember like watching Formula One. Formula One was the same thing. Like you could, if you had cable, you could go to Speed TV, you could go to
Right.
NBC, watch Formula One. Same thing in the UK. UK, you had BBC, which is a free channel. You watched Formula One there. But then all of a sudden, Formula One sold their broadcasting rights to Sky TV. And now
Right.
Sky says, hey, if you want to watch Formula One, now you have to buy Sky Formula One to watch any Formula One race. Like for a while, they were doing like a mix between BBC, but then eventually now it's just really Sky F1. So like now you're having to pay not just your cable box, now you're having to pay for a subscription to a channel to just watch Formula One.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people got turned off from that. That was a huge thing in the racing community. Is like all of a sudden they couldn't watch one of their favorite race series. Now you're having to watch it behind a paywall, like kind of like Amazon Prime. Like, what if you don't have Amazon Prime? Now you're gonna have to buy Amazon Prime or whatever to watch your favorite race series.
Well, and my point in bringing this back to the topic is
Yeah.
when IndyCar was faced with a choice to make.
Hmm.
We give the exclusive license to company A
Yeah.
for such and such amount of dollars, or do we leave it open and maybe make a little bit less money,
Yeah.
but maybe have more guarantee that we have good representation? Because look what's now. We had Lionheart here. You had one of the most prominent IndyCar promoting sim experiences out
Yeah.
there, promoting IndyCar as much as benefiting from IndyCar, and they no longer have that. And they don't have the other side either, because where they did sell it in the name of money,
Hmm.
they've got nothing.
Yeah.
you know. Um yeah, again, I don't know where the line is. I'm not an
Yeah.
economic guy, I'm not a business guy, I'm not a licensing guy,
Yeah.
I'm not a marketing guy. But I do just kind of wonder,
Yeah.
where these misses happen.
Yeah. I mean, to me, is exclusivity bad, hate it. Uh, but yeah, I mean, just going back. I mean, we kind of went on a tangent, but along the lines of it is, yeah, motorsport games. Are we seeing the downfall of them? I don't know. I do hope. I mean, again, people might disagree with me, which is fine. We're allowed to disagree. I do hope Motorsport Games does continue and does become a better company under the leadership of Stefan Hood. But one thing I do say that the exclusivity stuff needs to go away, because if like, what is it? We haven't really raced Le Mans since they lost the license, right, Sean? Like what's the point of racing Circuit de la Sarthe for 24 hours if you can't even call it Le Mans?
Yeah,
I know that turned off a lot of people. A lot of people were angry because of all that stuff. And same thing with, I'm pretty sure like Lionheart probably lost a lot of people because of now the exclusivity license. So yeah, it's very capitalistic. It's very just money grabbing for me when it goes exclusivity. It's not good for the community.
money grubbing
So
scum. No,
right.
I'm kidding.
So in that way, like, yes, I hope things change under Stefan Hood, or companies that own licenses, like like whoever, like the French motorsport company that owns the license to Le Mans. Like, I hope these companies like that wake up as like, we're not going to do exclusive licenses because we could probably make more money by making licenses with iRacing, with R Factor 2, with AMS2, with ACC. Like, I hope like these companies that sell off their copyright stuff don't enter into exclusive agreements, and which is better for us too. So yeah.
Right. Marcel said something. I don't know. When you look at like the NFL, when you take a job with the NFL, you have basically signed your entire life over to the NFL, like it is the leader of the world. And so when it comes to their ability to sell your name and likeness, it's part of the terms of being in it. And I don't know like how the secondary level. And I don't know how the new college rule has impacted that as well. What I also don't know is if racing has the same power as the NFL. Like when IndyCar is spending is doing anything they can to court someone like a Roman Grosjean, or they want ex Formula One
Yep.
drivers, and it's like, well, you're not going to do that by handing them a contract saying we own your name and likeness.
Yeah.
And so I again, I'm not sure where that line is, but yeah, it's a little dicey with racing because
Yeah.
they don't have that same blanket power to kind of
Hmm.
sell off the whole thing as one or part. And again, in like Formula One, again, I'm pretty sure the teams own their name and likeness, but it
Yeah.
doesn't go one step further towards it
Right.
or to the tracks. It is the car themselves. I think Formula One's deal with tracks is if we're on your track, we own your license as far as this coverage goes, sort of like the Coda deal, where like no other car could even see that track until Formula One had run its 2 or 3 year license with them.
No, with Formula One, it's just mostly their thing is because I mean you have IMSA and all them, they race at Coda.
But they
Uh,
didn't for 2 or 3 years when it was built, right? Wasn't Formula 1 like
no,
they had some weird license on that?
no. Formula One, they used to be very picky when it came to. This is under Bernie Ecclestone. They were very picky about social media and stuff like that. Like you had, for example, like Lewis Hamilton. He couldn't even do like a video tweet or like a TikTok from the track. Like if he wanted to do it, he had to be away from the racetrack to do that because he was working for Formula One at the time. So no, Formula One wasn't really Bernie. He, I don't even want to. There were so many things we can get into about Bernie. Like he tried to pull some crazy things, but no, like under Liberty, they've kind of gone letting drivers do their thing. So like yeah, but while you're at the race, yeah, like Formula One essentially owned the track for throughout the whole entire race. Nobody could do anything unless you were approved by Formula One to do anything. Because I remember, oh, what is it? Because I remember like there was people that were getting their streams. They're playing the game, and they were getting their streams copyrighted by the FIA management. And
Yeah.
like, how backwards is that? Uh,
They were shutting down streams because you had the spinning F1 logo from the game of the F1 that they gave the logo to for the purpose of the game, and that was enough to have it taken down.
Yeah.
It was yeah. It was so weird how Formula 1 just
Yeah.
ruined streaming for like it took them a while to figure out what they were doing. I don't
Yeah.
know if it was like it was like one of those one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing.
Mhm.
And it was like their legal department is so strict and so on
Yeah.
the clock, that they catch everything, and yet
Yeah.
it might conflict with the licensing / marketing department,
Yep.
where they're like, no, that's okay. They're working for us, actually.
Yeah, I think when it comes to like, I think like the NFL is probably the weirdest when it comes to the exclusivity stuff. Like they are in a league of their own when it comes to like how controlling they are when it comes to that stuff.
You can't even wear the wrong
I
headphones.
know.
Headphones. I can't have my own personal headphones when I walk
Yep.
in the stadium in the NFL.
Yeah.
That is nuts.
Yeah. You have to be in a certain
like, "Ah."
attire. Yeah, all that stuff.
I'm sorry. I know you make $100 million a year, but I'm going to need you to drop your pants to make sure you're wearing Hanes underwear. That is the only underwear of the NFL.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and just going back through some of the comments real quick. Joa is saying Ameer is wrong. I hope, I don't know. I hope I'm not, man, because like again, I talked about why I don't want them to fail. Won't get back into it. RF2, R Factor 2. So like, and that's the thing with R Factor 2. You have to really take your time to configure everything to make it work right. Servers, I don't even want to get into that. I tried making private servers for R Factor 2. It's a nightmare. Yeah, they need to do something about that. Marcel, the problem is MSG is too big, just break even. That's true. Yeah, I think Motorsport Games, they bought so many things so quickly, and now they are suffering because of that. And this is where like Kartcraft, R Factor 2, like those are two, to me, great sims. I would hate for them to go down because of what Motorsports Games has been going through. And that's why like I don't want them to fail, just because I have a really soft spot for R Factor 2 in my heart, because I love R Factor 2, regardless of what people say.
Well, and that streamlining, so if with all these assets, and you can see their burn rate,
Yeah.
lost 8.2 million last year. They have 1.4 million for the rest of this year.
Yeah.
So do your own quick math. It's not a good recipe, right?
No.
They need to streamline because they need to get the most bang for their buck out of that 1.4 million to get something to market to generate revenue.
Mm-hmm.
At which point you can then focus on a second effort or backing up that first effort so that it gets a good following, so that you can then build upon that. If of everything they have, and I don't think they'll see it this way, because R Factor 2, they bought the company. It's not like the licensing; it's the company. A lot of the,
Yeah.
you know, and unfortunately, I'm assuming that IndyCar, NASCAR, 24-hour Le Mans, and the license that they paid a lot of money just to have a name of
Yeah.
is probably more where they're focused, unfortunately.
Yep.
And they might be legally obligated too.
Yeah.
That could be another part of the contingency on all of those deals
Yeah.
is coming to market with a title, or you get sued by NASCAR, IndyCar,
Yeah.
Le Mans.
Yeah, it's gonna be tricky. But yeah, again, that's where it's like I hope. Uh, very. Oh, thanks, Bucho. Uh, but yeah, like this is where I see like I hope Motorsport Games, continues. I hope Sevenhood takes it in the right direction. To continue like going down the right path, not the path that they're going through. When they first came out. I mean, Seven Hoods is like well known throughout the F1 community through Codemasters and things like that. So I hope he's able to really steer the ship, bring it back to where it needs to go, not just for the company, but for the community members, the sim racers we have. Like he's able to manage bringing the company back while taking care of the sim racers that are out there too. And I hope like I don't know like if they do fall, I hope like Studio 397 has some sort of get out clause so they continue going back to doing continue doing what they're doing. So we'll see. I don't know. But that's all I got really talking about Motorsport Games. I hope I don't know if you got anything left, Shaun.
No. I mean, it's gonna be something that I know it's gonna take a little while to play out. So
Yeah.
you know, right now it hasn't. Right now it's just been sort of on the negative for us. Not a lot to gain. So hopefully it provides something in the end for us.
Yeah. Well, without that, then I guess what we can get into is Simpit questions. I know we've had a couple of questions that were posted in our Discord. So let me post that link again. If you're watching, not part of our Discord, you can go ahead and join our Discord. And we have a channel called Questions for Podcasts. So you can ask us your questions there. Because I have 3 questions from previous podcasts, and I got some new ones here that we can get after. So the first question, and make sure I didn't get this right. So
the only get out, sorry, Amir, the only
Yeah.
get out clause, Marcel, would be that if they're able to sell that off to somebody who cared,
yeah,
or could afford it and do something with it. Well, if they'll sell it for $1, I'll take over.
All right. So first question was asked by Andres Slizens. So can you talk about demographics of sim racing and the Simpit? For video gamers, seems like the Simpit is a mature community. Trying to avoid the word old. I mean, Shaun is old, not me. So is mature people your target audience when you talk about the future of Simpit? And there's a couple other things, but they all kind of tie into it. So, Shaun,
I'm gonna throw a different word other than old or mature.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that we're sort of like a little bit more of an intellectual group in sim racing, because I don't think there's an age restriction.
No.
Because we're just not the typical YouTube clown show. I'm not trying to be goofy. I'm not trying to get you with false, BS names of videos. There's no trickery. There's no TikTokery here. It's just straightforward, man. Where people are really passionate about sim racing from hardware to software. And I think that doesn't have an age cap, but that it does tend to lend itself to an older audience. Is that fair, or am I just off? I'm just old, and that's my way of putting it.
No, I don't think so. I think you're right. I mean, because I'm not much of a TikToker, or anything like that. Like, I'm still trying to learn how to do YouTube Shorts and things like that. But no, I mean, based off of our current demographics, yes, we are more of a mature YouTube or Simpit. We're much more of a mature community, and I'd say like going off of you, Shaun, like we're talking about is because, I mean, you now he's disappearing on me. So no, going back to Simpit. So originally, because Shaun came from inside sim racing, so I think when Shaun moved over and made oh my gosh, DJ Cole
Yo,
Trickle
yo,
now.
yo. I just want to give a shout out to all my homies from the east side, from the west side, the south side, and the north side, getting their sim groove on. We're going to be locking it down with some racing at Laguna, all Crash Fest today. Bring your emotions, bring your wallet. Let's get it on at Laguna. How's that?
All right, fake DMX.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I mean, no, I think just because of the history of the Simpit, yes, we tend to have a more mature audience for our community, but we're trying to change. We're trying to bring some new blood into the Simpit, and so like we're trying to do more social media posts because we know people grow in and out of sim racing. So but we're trying to make content for everybody that's out there now because I think Shaun, you could probably say that you used to do more reviews for more a top of the line kind of products, something that the younger crowd couldn't get access to.
Right.
But now we're trying to change that. We're trying to get into more affordable things. We're trying to get more into the stuff that the younger guys can afford, probably enjoy, look into. So we're trying to change that. Yes, we're a mature crowd, but we're trying to bring in the more younger people too, with some of the changes we've been doing within the last year or so in sim racing. Shaun, that would have worked like back in the 90s, but we're in 2023 now, buddy.
I'm a redneck, so I'm a little slow.
All right, next question. So this one was by Brandon Carl. So Brandon Carl, he asks, how much has sim racing affected your interest in real life racing? Personally, for me, it reinvigorated my love for real life auto racing. On the flip side of this, I've met quite a few sim racers that have zero interest in the real life counterpart.
That's fair.
Do you want me to take that one first? I'll go first.
Okay.
I'd say for me, I've always my first love was for real racing. So I've always enjoyed that more before sim racing. I think for me, my love of real life racing invigorated my sim racing because on Sundays, I'll watch the WEC, I'll watch IMSA, I'll watch Formula One, I'll watch almost anything that's out there that I can watch on YouTube from racing, and then that makes me want to get into my sim rig to race.
Yeah.
I
think there's always been a yin and yang, and so it started at a different age for all of us, but if you think back, like I didn't start loving cars because of my parents' cars or what I saw on the street because I was a child. I was in my house.
Yeah.
I started loving cars for what I saw on like the old cartoons, Speed Racer, Hot Wheels. It advanced to cheap remote control cars, it was the movies sometimes. So there were always these influences throughout my life that turned me into a car guy, whether you're talking just loving cars, cool cars, exotic cars, or racing, because they all parallel and go with each other. And then it's really always been a back and forth all my life, whether it be to racing or storing a car, just wanting the newest, hottest, coolest car.
Yeah.
And then back to sim racing, and so now on Sunday, I can't help but what they race on Sunday. I want to race that same day. I watch it on TV in the morning and then I want to race it. So it has a pull. But I would just say that sim racing is far more important. And like, I don't watch as much racing as I used to. And it's more like, well, why watch it when I can just go race?
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Because we have a couple of Simpit members that have no interest whatsoever in real racing, but they love sim racing. But for me, I guess for me, it's the opposite. For you, it's the other way around. All right. So getting into it, next question was from Tom Jones. I don't know if Tom Jones is still with us. I'd like to get your opinions on if it's okay to quit out of an endurance race once you've crashed out of the lead and think you have no chance of winning. There's some more to it, but I don't want to get into it. Uh, but it seems like, oh, you can't win, so you're just going to quit kind of mentality. Uh, so like he understands like if real life happens and you got to go, you got to go. But just to quit because you can't win seems pretty childish to me. You got that one, Shaun.
That is a tough call. In real life, you have so many sponsors who've paid so much money to put that name on the car. Win or lose, they'd like it to get as much exposure as possible.
Yeah.
So it's really not I mean, like in real life, it seems to me for the most part, the officials almost have to meatball and pull the car off the track because there's so much obligation in the name of the almighty dollar to continue going.
Yep.
As Dave Cater said at a conference to me 8 years or so ago, the only currency that we actually have in sim racing is like our pride or our respect of others and the respect we get back. So, you know, I guess to me, like if respect of others is important to you, then yeah, I think you have an obligation to finish what you started.
Yeah.
Now, if your car is a danger, is so far off the pace that it puts others in danger, well, meatball or not, I think that has to be taken into consideration because you don't want to make matters worse by getting others involved in your damaged car. So I think that you know, I think that if you know, that's my answer. But to act like that's a rule or that everybody is playing with that same currency, I don't think is quite fair because it is a game. There is no money. There is a reset button. And so why should I have to suffer any long? I mean, I can understand both sides. Now, I'm a man of great pride.
Yeah.
And I like to finish what I start.
Yep.
So for me, it is very important. But I don't think it would be fair for me to hold or put that standard on everybody in sim racing.
Yeah, I'm along the same lines as you. Like, it really depends. Because I'm like you. I mean, we've done quite a few endurance races over the years, and we've had some really great races, and we've had some really. I'm gonna use the word now instead of you, Shaun. We had some really shitty races. But just to say, would I normally quit out of a race because we got into a crash? No. I mean, we did Watkins Glen, you know, we were running so well and we got taken out not once, but twice, but we still continued. We still persevered on and we finished. And I think for me, that's the more important thing. I think it shows more character if you continue on racing. That's more of the perseverance, showing your commitment. But I do understand the part of, you said, like, if you have too much damage, should you continue to race? Like, if you are, you know, 4 seconds, 5 seconds off the pace, maybe it is better to park the car, because if you're racing, especially in multi-class racing, like most LMP drivers or GTD drivers now are going to be thinking, you're a GT3, I know your pace, so I'm going to pass you at the certain pace. But if you're off the pace, that can ruin a lot of things. Now, it happens if you crash a car at the beginning of the race, if you crash it in the middle, if you crash it towards the end, that's going to dictate to you whether you continue or not. Like, so there's, so that's why I think it really depends on really a couple of different factors when it comes to quitting a race. Like, under normal conditions, would I quit a race? No, I never would. I'd always want to continue, regardless if I finish last. Still, we put a lot of time in, we put a lot of effort in practicing, you know, not just because it's not just me. We have normally, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 drivers in the car. Like, I don't want to quit the race because of them, because we put so much time practicing, and I don't want to put that to waste. Like, and you can always gain positions too. You never know what's going to happen in races. Like, there are teams that have come back from behind to finish top 10, top 5, even win races because of early incidents. So for me, like, would I normally quit? But there are certain factors that would make me consider it. One, yes, for the safety of the other people on the track, and then, I mean, if I crash within 30 minutes left, but it takes me 25-minute repairs,
Sure.
yeah, I might as well just park it till the end of the race, and yeah.
Yeah. One other thing, having nothing to do with that same topic, but like I do have a little self built-in rule, by the
Yeah.
way. Like if I do 2 self spins in a league oval race and I
Yeah.
bring out 2 cautions because I'm just can't handle the car,
Yeah.
I will tend to park it
Yeah.
because I feel like I'm having a negative impact on everyone else's racing experience.
Yep.
Same thing if I do, like even on the roadside, if I do 2, usually 2's my cutoff. Like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on
Yeah.
me. And it's sort of like if I've done a second blowout where I've like rear-ended somebody twice,
Yeah.
I will often park it because I'm
Yeah.
just like, you're not in the right headspace to be here on what's free. Again, if we had sponsors, if there's money on the line, all these rules go out the window, right? Right? I mean, honestly, because you can't. Your sponsor would be like, I'm not paying him. I don't freaking care about that guy.
Yep.
I didn't say it, so we're still on just ask.
Yeah, you're true. So again, it's not really a question I can answer with a yes or no, but yeah. So yeah, thanks Tom for asking that. Now getting into some of the questions that were asked today.
Here, I'll hit Bucho's while you look it up. Bucho, no,
Yeah.
I pretty much am not Lemons Racing anymore because I moved to Santa Cruz. So sort of like if you can't work on the car, then it's kind of hard to get a seat in the car. So since I'm not really involved with those teams, I'm not. But I've completely replaced it with adventure riding and riding my adventure motorcycle and doing. I just got back from a week-long vacation and had a blast. So I've just replaced it with a new thrill hobby of sorts. So I'm totally content and happy. All right.
Yep.
I saw that one live.
Yep. Good, man. Just looking at some comments too, I guess, before I go into the next questions. Chilla's like, why is this the end of Motorsport Games? Again, it's just speculation. We're just talking about it because it's been really the talk this year, and there's been a lot of controversy and a lot of things happening behind Motorsport Games. We talked about it in depth. So earlier in the podcast. So if you want to, you can go back and watch that. Icon No Cap Anthony. Hey guys, tips. Just purchased a Moza R9 SRP pedals and the KS steering wheel, but I have no clue what to do. So ICAP, I mean, there's a bunch of I'm not even just say single S. So you could watch our videos, or there's other YouTube videos out there that shows you how to install everything, get everything working. But Moza does have some really good guides out there on what you need to do to get everything working and installed. If you do have any questions, again, you can come into our Discord. I mean, we have a bunch of Moza users. They'll be more than happy to help you out in our Discord once you're actually getting everything connected. I mean, yeah, you'll download the game. You'll have to do some configurations to your liking, but we have a bunch of people with Moza products in our Discord. I mean, they'll be more than happy to help you out.
Dave Blair asks if you're getting Forza.
Dave Blair, maybe. I'm gonna wait to see what Shaun says during his initial stream of it. I really don't have the time to do anything but iRacing. I don't know. I'll see what Shaun says when he does his stream live review of it, and we'll go from there.
All
right. Is it going to be enough?
A couple more. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Okay, so Marcel, this is on our Discord, and this is up. I fielded this because I want your answer.
Okay.
In particular, at least. How do we feel about iRacing and other sim titles, for that matter? How they should combat cheating, which is all too easy today. And then a secondary backup question of that being, what about making the online infrastructure more robust against DDoS attacks or even just regular disconnects? Yeah. All right, you, Ameer.
All right. So I guess because I'm an IT guy.
Yeah, that's why I put it to you.
So I think iRacing's been doing a really good job so far in combating cheating. I know it still happens. With any program, there's always going to be backdoors. There's always going to be ways people find to get into systems to do nasty things. I think iRacing, they have an anti-cheat system in place that really can capture a lot of things. The big thing is, making sure. I mean, this is just my IT mind going through in space. Make sure all your stuff's updated, all your infrastructure, all your firmware, all your software, all up to date with the newest patches and updates. Um, Again, we're at the point nowadays where, a 13-year-old kid at home can really do some serious damage if the systems aren't protected enough. So nowadays, companies have to really spend a lot of money investing in in software that can detect hacking, cheating, things like that. So, protecting against cyber attacks. So companies are now you have to really invest heavily into programs that can really detect any type of code that's going to be entering your internal infrastructure for your system. The minute it catches it, it'll catch it and alert somebody that's actually really watching. That's the other thing. You need to have people watching this stuff to see what's going on in real time, to stop these attacks from happening. We can go down like all cyber attacks, like installing, sensors at every endpoint of the system. We're going to get into way too technical stuff, but yeah, companies need to invest not just in better hardware for better network connections and like this, but they really need to invest heavily into programs and software and people that can protect against these cyber attacks. Making online infrastructure more robust. From what I've seen in the industry, really, it's going more cloud. Cloud infrastructure is really the future. Like, you can't just have a single server sitting in one place and expecting that to be protected. Yes, physically it's protected, but what if that server goes down? What are you going to do? You need to have backups. You need to have other systems in place that can replace it in case something happens. A lot of companies are investing really heavily into cloud computing, cloud infrastructure, cloud networking, cloud security, to where if one system fails in one area, there's going to be another system somewhere else that's really going to pick up the slack and take over. That's, I don't know if, I can go way more technical in detail, but that's probably going to bore a lot of people.
All right. Well, here's what I will say. I don't know anything about everything you just spouted out as far as the technical side of things, but the first half of the question, the combating cheating. Yeah, off of their heads. I have a zero tolerance when it comes to cheaters. As my ex-girlfriend Monica would say, a cheater's going to cheat. But for me, I just have no tolerance whatsoever. I don't understand it. Like, it just, again, getting back to personality types. I would just rather lose than be a cheater. I don't understand, and I've spent most of my life losing, by the way, right?
Yeah.
So it's not,
like last week.
Yeah, exactly. Ameer beat me once again. No, but I don't even understand the need to win at the expense of cheating.
Yep.
Like, to me, that is so far from winning.
Yep.
That it's not winning.
No.
So if you cheat and you win, you're the ultimate loser in my mind.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just it's really hard for me to understand why it's so prevalent.
Yep.
Other than other kind of personalities, and then as far as as far as the attempts and what the racing company, I don't know the boundaries on how much they can and can't.
Right.
But if I'm paying as much as I'm paying, as we started at the beginning of this conversation on iRacing, I think that they bear a ultimate responsibility to make that as preventable as humanly possible and be ahead of the curve, not behind the curve.
Yep. And you had to add to that too, I think, because you're mentioning, and I think, because we talked about the stuff to prevent cheating, but what about if cheating does happen too? For me, this is where I really like, for example, what Bungie does with Destiny 2. But they will call out that person live, like, yep, we banned these people, and here are their names, and they are banned from the service forever. Like, I think if more companies were willing to do that, to say, yep, this week we banned this person from the service forever. Like, I don't, if you get caught cheating, to me, that's just an automatic ban from the service forever. You should never be allowed on that service ever again.
Agreed.
And if you get caught using a different account, then I think that's where now, because Bungie is doing this. I don't know if you saw in the news too. Bungie actually took somebody to court, sued the person because they banned him multiple times, and they actually won. Like, I think it was like a $4.5 million lawsuit, and they won. So I think companies need to be just outright saying, "Yep, we've done this, and if you got continue doing this, here are the consequences." Because I think by not saying anything, that's going to even encourage some people to do things where,
Sure.
like, with iRacing people, a lot of people talk about this where, you have the reporting system where you can report other drivers. And all you get is an email. If whether you succeeded or not, you get an email saying the matter's been dealt with. Well, what happened? Did the person get away with it? Did he get a 3-day ban? Did he get a 1-week ban, a 1-month ban? You don't really know. And it kind of leaves you discontent. No, just outright say, like, hey, this week, here are the offenses that we've reviewed, and here's what's
Right.
been handed out. That
Yeah.
will have way more of an effect to getting people to drive the right way, to not cheat.
Sure. A scar on your name in the community is going to go a
Exactly.
long way in that. Marcel mentions that if there's a lot of prize money, that it becomes a larger problem, and no
True.
doubt, absolutely, that's also part of capitalism, I guess. But so for me, here's the difference. If I'm playing checkers against
Yeah.
you, and you're not looking, and I take a token off the board,
Mhm.
that's cheating, right?
Yeah.
And I would never do that because morally it's wrong. So I won't do that. That's
Yeah.
like not me. When prize money is involved, I understand that it ups the ante, but the difference is now it's not just moral, but now it's actually stealing.
Yep.
And I absolutely wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Because now it's not just a moral. You still have broken the moral law,
Yeah.
but now you've actually broken actual laws.
Yep.
And I am 99% for the most part a law-abiding citizen. I do believe I live by a high moral compass, and therefore, again, those are just things that you wouldn't ever find me doing.
Yeah.
And I don't even really understand the others because of how I'm wired.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not trying to sound innocent or ignorant on this. Like, I understand it happens. It's like I'm not unaware of such things. I just don't understand what it takes to be that kind of a human being.
Right. Well, and
Like, you might as well tell me that you beat animals. Like,
Yeah.
like, what is wrong with you? Why would you cheat? Why would you lie, cheat, or
Right.
steal? I just,
and to me, like, and this is just where my brain, maybe I'm just wired differently, but like, using the case of, we're talking about prize money. So I'm going to go back to the case of Williams, what they did earlier this year, I think Daytona, right? The tactics they employed at Daytona. It would have, like, what they did, legitimately, that was just flat out cheating, and everything that they did during that event. It would have had a much more positive effect if iRacing said, you're not allowed to race on our service anymore. You, as
Right.
Williams eSport team, are not allowed. You have broken our code of conduct. That would have actually legitimized esports and iRacing a lot more than staying silent and letting the masses reflect their hate towards Williams. Because that would have forced Williams their hand to make sure their drivers abide by the rules of racing. 2, could have brought back people back into iRacing, saying iRacing actually is on top of their stuff. Like, we appreciate him, so we're going to come back to this. So To me, it speaks a lot more volume when you start banning people from cheating and doing bad things when instead of just staying quiet, because now people are going to sit there and respect the title a lot more. They're going to want to say, yes, like, okay, iRacing, yes, you are expensive, but the way you take care of your service is top notch. You know, you make sure the sim racers are taken care of. So therefore, that is why I sim race. I don't care about the money anymore, but you actually provide a good service taking care of sim racers. So this is why I race there.
Yeah.
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 Can
All
I be
right.
can I be your VP there, Sean Cole, if you're gonna run in
Yeah.
2024?
Yeah, I'm not running. I could never take that responsibility. No way. Don't even want the job.
Uh,
I'm looking forward to as much as we trash talked new content,
mhm.
um I'm looking forward to that Mustang being in
Yes.
iRacing.
I mean, at
What do
least we
they
have
call that thing?
the Mustang. I don't know. I'm not a Ford guy, so I don't really pay too much attention. I know. I just hope the virtual crowd is going to be safe.
Chilla, it's true. It's true. I actually, I watch. If you guys do like I'm sure my brother can hear this. My brother and I went to a go-karting place with our dad once, and my brother was leading the way, and I was hounding him. My brother's really fast, but I was a little quicker that day. And I waited and waited, looking for my move. Couldn't make it. Couldn't make it. Couldn't make it. My brother's driving a perfect driving line. He was just fast enough, but with like 1 or 2 laps to go, I just gave him the epic, like, pick and roll,
Mhm.
and just like spun him out. And afterward, my dad just gave me an earful and it was like, you don't do that. That's
Yeah.
not how you win, and it was like, it wasn't about money. It wasn't, but like for my dad, it doesn't matter whether it's about money or not. This is this is, and I hope more people don't, this is how you define yourself as a
Yep.
human being. It doesn't matter whether it's legal or not. It doesn't matter whether you get away with it or not. But when you are just looking in the mirror,
Yeah.
these the decisions and the ability to do those things is such a defining part of your personality.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, curb stomp. No, I'm kidding. No. All right. No, I'm all done though. I think that's it. I want to
Okay.
drive that Mustang, the Ford Mustang Dark Horse. That's what
Something
it's
like
called.
that. Yep.
All right. It is kind
Well,
of, that thing's badass.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's it for I guess all the questions that we have, Sean. So I guess one last question I'll pose to you. So, yeah, before we go off the air. So, what do you've got coming up? What are you working on behind the scenes that are going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks?
I gotta look around to remind myself.
To
I
give
got
people
those
something to
over
look forward to.
there. I got those over there. I got this over here. No, I've got the Sim Magic P1000 pedals
Hmm.
inverted, without the haptics. So it's going to be hopefully a 2-part thing in the
Okay.
end. But I can say this: I've never put a pair of pedals under my feet that felt more like the club sports.
Okay.
It's like, wow, if you didn't tell me, I would assume that I had the inverted club sports under my feet.
Hmm.
Now, these have some adjustability and some other things that I think make them rather unique or special. But just blind test, it was like, wow, these feel just like club sports, like the
Yeah.
pressure, the travel. So, but that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
That to me, the club sports are the industry standard
Hmm.
to this day when it comes to pedals. So that's where I'm at there. And I'm having fun with them. I did a round of testing with the stock spring setup,
Okay.
and then I just pulled them off this rig this morning to do a total change around of
Okay.
spring and make all the adjustments and tune them in
Yeah.
how I'd want them to be. And so that's phase 2. I am still playing with, and I just keep getting distracted by other things. The HF4 platform.
Right.
I'm sitting on the D-Box R-Seat HF4 motion platform, which I just am enjoying driving, and so I just something else shows up and I forget about the rig because I'm just enjoying driving.
Right.
So I have a ridiculous amount of B-roll footage already for this.
Yeah.
I just haven't put my words to paper just yet. I got a new set of pedals, which I don't want to tell you guys about yet because I got a little rotation. But I got a new set of pedals in, another set of pedals, higher end, that I'm super excited about. Excuse me. And they are, what excites me is when something isn't just like a carbon copy of something
Right.
else. Like, I mean, we have so much great gear in sim
Yeah.
racing. We are so lucky now. But when I get something that's like really unique and I'm like, hey, this is cool. This is a different way of doing it, or it looks different. And, if you posted a picture of your rig, it would take those in the know to be like, oh, those are that, So those are the things. I think that's one of the reasons like why I like the Moza R16 base, because it was a cool shape, the right size. I like the orange color, obviously. And it was just that they just did something a little different and a little unique. And so, I'm excited about those pedals as well. I have some software that I'd forgotten about and I just remembered the other day. But a third-party laser scanned, we'll call it track for simplicity, modder for Assetto Corsa.
Okay.
Not Assetto Corsa, for Assetto Corsa. Does local stuff to me.
Okay.
And I might even go on a field trip and do some scanning with him.
Wow. All right. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's something else that I got in the works. And then I almost forgot, I've got the Camus 5 Newton meter. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm having a little trouble with the shift lights and gear indicator.
Yeah.
But functionally, the wheel's working great, which means even though I'm not ready to review it because I got to sort out the electronics, because I'm sure it'll work, it's just that I haven't sorted something out, right? And their documentation is not the best. The wheel is surprisingly cool.
Yeah.
So, I had so much doubt in my mind about that 5 Newton meter motor in the wheel.
Right.
That I was dying to just put it on a rig and try it. And I was like, oh, wow, this totally works.
Right.
And it makes for something really unusual, which if you saw my rig review of the go-kart, it is now the lowest profile wheel you can buy. Like there is no smaller there is no base. The wheel is barely bigger than a normal wheel. It is bigger, but like it's like you just have two forks coming off of it, and that's what mounts. And it worked so awesome on that kart sim. Other than 5 Newton meters is not enough for karting.
No, karting you need a lot. Yeah. You got no power steering. You got a lot of forces there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it'd be good, like you mentioned it in your review, like for a kid, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, that whole setup, that karting rig with that Camus 5 Newton meter would be dirt cheap because that's $289, I think, for the wheel. The rig's a little pricey for a karting sim. I missed their pricing is like different, so they only gave me one price of $699.
Okay.
Turns out in the United States it's actually $599.
Okay.
But that's still a little. I mean, $600.
Yeah.
Opens the door to a lot of options.
Right.
So it's a very specific option, and which is exactly the point of that rig. But if you have a kid who's karting and it's like, cool, you get him that rig, it'll grow with them forever. You get that Camus wheel, $289, you're on a direct drive. It should last at least. And then just throw some Club Sport, the industry standard pedals.
Yeah.
And you'd be at like $1,100. Is that what I just rattled off?
Yeah.
$1,100?
Something like that.
And that would be pretty decent setup to get things going. I mean,
nice.
So.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. How about you? What do you got working?
So right now, I've got a lot of things I got to take care of. So I'm on a deadline for a secret review. I have to get it done. James, how's it going, buddy? So, well, he's here. But get this out of the way. So I've got a secret project. I got to get it done and taken care of by the 6th of October with the release on the 10th of October. So I'm working really hard on that to get it taken care of. Ran into some issues, not because of the manufacturer, but on my part. my rig kind of wasn't really prepared for it, so I had to wait on some things, kind of set me back. But everything is taken care of, so I can get everything knocked out on that. I have an Evil Racing Dentsu like Audi clone racing wheel that I got a review. I've had for a while, just haven't had a chance to get to. I have a Race Logic clone to review also. The WinSim that's back here, but now it's cold, it doesn't matter anymore. And a couple of like opinion pieces are going to be coming out. I've got some of their scripts already written, just got to find time to type it out. And the biggest thing that's going to be happening is the Sim Racing Expo in 2 weeks. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'll be there for all 3 days. Got my hotel booked, everything taken care of. So, you know, if you're going to be going to the Sim Racing Expo, I'll be out there. So I'll be wearing my Simpit shirt. So you know who I am. So you can come out and say hi, meet, greet. I know there's a couple people from Discord. They messaged me saying, hey, let's meet up for a couple things. But yeah, I'll be out there just to have fun, enjoy. See, you know, the lovely tea sipping bald headed guy that's in chat right now, James West.
Hey, James.
See what crazy antics he's been up to, because I haven't seen him since the IMSIM visit 2 years ago. So that'd be really cool to catch up with him, see what he's been up to. I know I'll be meeting up with Stellian from Race Beyond Matter, Random Call Sign. So yeah, a couple people out there I'm looking forward to meeting again, having some fun with. And again, just anybody that's out there that wants to say hi, I'll be like, hi, how's it going, buddy?
Yeah, in Dortmund, and you can get into our Discord channel and send Ameer a message if you're gonna try to find him out there.
Yeah.
Chilla, I just want to make a comment on that kart rig, because yes, he said you'd buy it if you could get a better GT. The only change that I would make to that rig, and it would completely change that rig, is if the center post was out. And who would think that I, at 5'0" would be the one asking for this? The center post needed to go higher. It was plenty strong enough to go higher without too much compromise, or I'd accept it. Like if they even put a disclaimer or a red line saying we do not suggest putting it higher than this position, I would totally be like, okay, that's on me. They put a red line. And then they could have cut a hole at the bottom of the rig to allow it to go down through. Mm-hmm. But it could have only gone maybe that much more before you hit ground on the feet. But anyway, I could have raised that rig 2 inches higher, it would have made it an adequate GT driving rig. And then I would have been like, oh, you could do karting or GT. And then in the end, and I said this in the review, I do believe, but it was like, no, this is a karting rig. And if you like have to do a GT race, you can do it. But ultimately, if you're a GT driver, don't buy this rig. I think I might have said those exact words. I don't know if I said don't buy it, but I said if you're a GT driver, it's not for you. So tea. Well, don't you James? Do you really do tea? You're that British?
Oh yeah.
No, I'm kidding. One of my best friends in the world is from England, and it's like, yeah, dude, tea. Yeah, I drink coffee. He drinks tea. I'm like, dude, that is so weird.
Right. I like tea. I mean, living in England got me used to drinking tea too. So, and a sausage too. Yeah, let's grab some sausages.
What? You have a sore throat or something? A little lemon with you? Oh,
no, yeah, add some milk in it. Maybe some like hazelnut syrup. Oh, dude, it's amazing. You gotta try it one day.
No.
You do know, like, there's more caffeine in tea than in coffee, right?
It's not the caffeine entirely;
Okay.
it's the flavor.
Okay.
You know, but I've been thinking about this. I am a snob when it comes to food and beverage, and I
Are you? I mean, you drink Starbucks. You praise Starbucks. So, are you really a snob?
Well, I am in this. I almost won't enjoy coffee unless it's with like half and half with the right amount of sugar. Like it can't even be like low fat milk, or it's like no, that's not coffee. Like so, I think the reason for me and not being big on tea is I'm not really into watery. It's kind of watery. So even if you add cream, but it's the body of coffee, and that's one of the reasons I like Starbucks is their coffee is so strong and thick that it requires an abundance of half and half to balance it, and then you end up with something that would almost qualify as a hot milk, like it would almost be a milkshake if you
Right.
froze it, you know. So yeah, that's the truth of my coffee. And if you see even what I'm drinking right now, it basically looks
Right.
like I just described. You know,
That just
so
looks
much.
like you throw a little bit of dirt in the milk.
My brother and I used to say that a proper cup of coffee should look and taste like a bite of Haagen-Dazs coffee ice cream.
I don't know about that. I don't know. The older and older I've gotten, the more I've been drinking just black coffee straight up, like just enjoying the flavor of coffee itself. Like I refuse to do Starbucks because their coffee just always tastes like a burnt mess to me. Like I've become like a true coffee snob where there's only certain coffees I drink, and maybe I'll add like a little bit of milk to it, or like a little bit of creamer. But for the most part, like I've become like just straight black coffee drinker. Yeah.
Oh, yuck. Brian, I have a Bunomatic, like a restaurant Bunomatic.
I have a cheap French press.
Well, but that's a way, not like
I know.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are talking
Jura?
about these machines and stuff. I was like,
Jura sounds expensive. That sounds expensive. So we're trying to upgrade computers.
well, I know.
All right.
Before we get into
Anything
fighting
else?
over coffee, I guess.
Yeah, I need to
end
go
it
to
on
the
a good
bathroom, eat
note.
lunch, and-
So yeah, that's really it from our guys. So like this has been our second episode of our Simpit podcast. So if you're just tuning in, so we don't do this on a regular basis. We really do this now say every month, maybe every other month. And we really talk about topics that have been burning at us for a while, or some new things that are really big that we need to chat about. But yeah, we usually announce, a week beforehand when we're doing the podcast. And then once it's been released on YouTube and we're done with it, that following Monday, I release it on Spotify. So if you don't have time to watch it on YouTube, or like you can't watch it at work or anything, you can't access YouTube, we do have it on Spotify. So you can listen to it, download on your phone, listen to it, watch it there too. And the link's in the description on how to get to it. So I'll have that up on Monday for you guys watching, viewing pleasure when you're having the case of the Mondays at work. But really, that's it from me and Shaun. Shaun, the parting words.
Practice. I gotta beat you tomorrow.
You can try.
I'm gonna kick your ass.
Anyways, guys, I hope you had fun watching our podcast, and we'll see you guys next time. And have fun racing, guys.
Bye now.